Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bringing the Blues, another episode of Let's Talk City. I'm here with Kelkster04 on Twitter. It's been a while. I've been on other streams, other people's streams. Made the debut on the Football Terrace, which was pretty exciting. So that was great. I was on I think Patrick's channel as well. So I've been really busy, but been neglecting obviously Bringing the Blues. So happy to get another another live stream going. We're going to talk a few different things today. Obviously, I suppose the big news, which I think we all saw coming anyway, but real confirmation around Ederson. Obviously looking to leave. He was very strongly linked with a move to Saudi in the last window, but obviously that move just it didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen, because God knows where we'd be really without him. But I'm happy to be joined by Kels. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. Did you? I'm assuming you caught the FA Cup semi-final.
Oh yeah, of course.
What
I
time was it? What time was it over?
was at I was at 8:30 kickoff, so it was a
Yeah.
very nice time. Didn't have to
Was
get up too early. I did. Yeah, I actually got up. I think I woke up kind of early. On game days, my body just kind of wakes up early because I'm
yeah.
just like, oh, well, unless it's a 12:30 kickoff, then I definitely don't.
So it always tends
But
to be early kickoffs for you then.
yeah, usually it's a Champions League. That's always the latest. Those are always on at 12 for my time. So on Friday when we have that game against Wolves, that'll be a 12 p.m. kickoff for me, just like the Champions League games are. And
Oh,
there's some other, I think there's some other randos at those time, but it's mostly just Champions League. Pretty
yeah.
consistent at 12 for me.
Nice. What did you? We'll get a quick summary. What did you think of the game? Happy?
Oh yeah, I'm stoked. I'm very excited. We're going to the FA Cup final. I mean, the first half we completely dominated them, and I knew they would make some adjustments and come out a little tougher in the second half. And we got saved by the post a few times, but I'm just happy with the result. Very excited that we're going to the FA Cup final, because it has been kind of a sad, it's been a tough season. So to have that, we could still potentially win a trophy is just great news. And I really want to do it for Kev.
Yeah, he's got to go. We've got to do it. You know what? I am, for the first time in a long time, actually confident that we'll end up doing it, but we'll see. I've not been to Wembley this year. Obviously, we've only been once anyway. But I was at a friend's stag do, so there was just no way of getting down, which was it was a bit upsetting. I always try and get down to Wembley, but I will be there. I'm looking to go to the final. Just need to get my ticket, but I should be there for that, so I'm looking forward to that. Talking about it, we'll start with Ederson, because obviously I think that news dropped. Was it today? Maybe yesterday. I think it was today. Was it today? Or was it yesterday?
I don't know,
I
but
don't know.
I feel like we've kind of known about it for a while, though.
Yeah. I think we've all known. I think I've seen a lot of the other kind of City content creators react to it. Some are a little bit shocked. I think people had the idea that because he was, coming into a bit of form, we'd started doing better. That maybe, obviously, he was one of those players that was going to stay, and he was on a lot of people's keep list. Whereas I think halfway through the season, he was on a lot of people's sell list. I think a lot of people changed their minds, but it obviously seems to be. I mean, if Fabrizio tweets it, that's usually pretty concrete. So, he's obviously going to go. I'd be shocked if it wasn't anywhere but Saudi. I'd also be shocked if something wasn't already, in the works, or even kind of verbally agreed. That's how these things happen. I think, maybe he decided to stay and help the club. Maybe that's what they agreed, and then there was an agreement to say, look, you can go wherever you want in the next window. I wouldn't be surprised if it was already pretty much wrapped up. I think it'll be one of those ones where it's day one, first week of the transfer window. He'll end up leaving, but I think he's been a great player for us. What are your thoughts? Are you happy? Are you content with it?
I'm sad. I'm a big Ederson fan. I just love him. He's psychotic. He's crazy.
Yeah.
I love that shithouseness of him.
Yeah.
I know he's not the greatest shot stopper and he's absolutely abysmal at penalties. And we probably need to upgrade in that department, but his distribution is just world class. And there's nobody in the world that even comes close to it. And he's just been so crucial to our style of play for so long. And even despite some of his deficiencies, we've still managed to win like 18 trophies. We've won every single trophy possible. And he was a big part of it. Like, as I keep saying about his shot stopping, like he was so good in that Champions League final. Like we kept a clean sheet and he was getting peppered in the second half and he made some very crucial stops. And also in the prelude to that at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid, he had a bunch of really big stops as well. And I love the guy and I wish he would stay longer because he's still pretty young for a keeper. But the club, if the club aren't going to give him what he wants, then I have no problem with him going to get the bag in Saudi.
Yeah.
It sounds like his head was turned over this summer and his head might not have fully been in it this season. So maybe that's kind of led to the drop in form. But I'm just going to wish him the best. And I wish he would stay, but he doesn't want to. So, I'll just wish him the best in his next club.
Yeah, I think a lot's made of his. He's the best keeper in the world, still the best keeper in the world in terms of distribution, and that is the reason that we signed him at the end of the day. I think the form this season, as overall, it's not being great. I think, if you're a player and you mentally you've made that move in your mind, you've probably started looking at houses and schools and all of that jazz, and then obviously, for whatever reason he stayed, but it seemed to everyone like his heart wasn't in it. Wasn't in it anymore. Which was sad, really. But I'm happy again, a little bit, similar to KDB. I'm happy that he's coming to a bit of form. We've got one more final, one more trophy for him to win. I think it'll be a great send off. But he is a character, and I think he's going to be a big miss in the dressing room as well. Not just for his goalkeeping and his distribution, but I think he was one of the more popular players at Man City. So, when you lose players like that, when you lose players like De Bruyne, again, it's not just, I always say this, it's not just about, we need to find someone who can pass like De Bruyne, or we need to find a keeper that can, the distribution, it's the character as well. So, yeah, I think a big miss, personally. I know a few people aren't too fussed, but I think we will miss him.
Yeah, I always liked it. He would always dye his hair blue around trophy time, and I always appreciated that about him. Like, I think it was the trouble season. I think it was the trouble season when we'd wrap the title up, and he was just sitting on the bench for one of the games, and he had the blue hair going. I remember, I think it was like him and Laporte sitting on the bench, and he had the blue hair, and I was like, I love you, Eddie.
Oh yeah, no, he's quality. I mean, do you know what? The thing that I'll be most upset about is the fact that we've not played him in midfield once this season. We all wanted that, didn't we? We all wanted to see him play one game in midfield. I don't think we're going to see that now, unfortunately. But that would have been he'd have done a job. He'd have done a job this season. That's all I'm saying.
We got the meme of the penalty kicks at least, and he's 2 for 2, so you can't argue with that.
Yeah, got a lot of assists as well. I think he's what is he all time now in the Prem for assists? I think this season.
Yeah, I think it's 7 or 8. Yeah, maybe I think it's 7. Like he's 4 this season, which is crazy.
Yeah, and if you think about his form as well, that's even more insane. This is
and he's time too. Yeah.
Yes, subscribed. Big up, and big up Kelkster. Thank you very much. This is City. I appreciate that. Love the support. Love that. Obviously, get involved, guys. Get your questions in. We'll get them up on here. And we've got Andrew Bowie here. It's not all fitting on here, but personally don't want Eddie to go. However, I do think Ortega could step up to number 1. He just needs a proper run of games. I don't think we really need to splash 50 mil on a new keeper. That is interesting.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough from Ortega, but then again, he has played a decent string of games because Eddie has had some injury issues this season and last season. So I feel like we've kind of seen Ortega, and I personally don't think he's good enough to be our number one starter, but I think he's a great backup, and I think he's going to go this summer as well, because I think he does deserve to be a number one starter somewhere. And I just don't think it'll be at Manchester City.
Do you know, I was pushing for him to be, number one keeper, especially when Eddie was struggling so much, the first half of the season. And I feel like, this season, I think we as a fan base as well, I think it's fair to say a lot of us, and I'll put myself in here as well. I'm not saying it's everyone else but me, but I think we have been very reactive this season because obviously the drop in quality, the drop in form. I think alarm bells were ringing, people were panicking, and I remember he had a couple of games where he was a little bit shaky, and obviously it was at the period where we were losing and drawing a lot of games, and people almost just forgot everything prior. Forgot that big save against Spurs and just labelled him, not good enough. But I think he could do a job. The only issue with me is his distribution. I think he's a much better shot stopper than Eddie. That much is obvious, but it's whether or not he can improve on the distribution, because to play in this City team, you have to be able to move the ball around from the back.
Yeah, and it seems like they've kind of got someone lined up for it. That Diogo Costa guy. There's a lot of strong links again today, so that maybe he's the guy to replace him. I personally have not seen him play, so I can't really comment. I'm on the Chevalier bandwagon. I've been watching him a few games, and I've been very impressed with the shot stopping distribution. I think his distribution is better than Ortega's, but it's nowhere near Eddie's. But I just think we'll never find that. So you just kind of have to. You'll have to lower the distribution a little bit, but then you'll kind of raise the shot stopping. So that should help us with the balance.
Yeah. The thing is, I think what everyone's going to have to understand is, and it's the same with the De Bruyne. There isn't a replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. He's one of those generational players, one of those generational talents. And unfortunately, it's in one of those positions where, it's not like strikers, for example. I don't think we've had a striker like Aguero since, just saying. However, there are players who would give you a similar impact, like your Isaacs and obviously Haaland scores, bags and bags and bags of goals. But De Bruyne is in that position and he's that good where you're never going to replace Kevin De Bruyne, just like we never replaced Yaya Toure and we never replaced David Silva. You've just got to find someone else who's a little bit different, but is hopefully just as effective, and I think that'll be the same with. Eddie. I think hopefully lightning strikes twice, and we get someone better distribution. But I doubt.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. You got to be positive, haven't you? I suppose. But yeah, we'll see. How much do you think? How much would you sell him for? What would you be expecting? I'm not sure how long's left on his contract actually.
I think next year's his last year. So if we could get, I would say between 20 to 25 million, I think is like the levels. And it could be even as low as 15, but
it's Saudi.
I think you just have to give him what he wants because he's been such a great servant for the club. And we've also massively underpaid him for quite some time. So just let him go this time. Don't hold him hostage because clearly it affects his form. Like I know we've kind of held Bernardo longer than he wanted to stay. But luckily, his performance never dropped. So I just don't believe in keeping players who don't want to be here because I think it does affect their performance on the pitch, and they're not helping you.
I'm exactly the same. I've never understood that. I wasn't happy with Kyle Walker leaving the way that he did. I've said it on loads of streams, but for me, it has tarnished his time at City for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I won't forget.
He's one we should have let go. After the treble season, we should have let him go. Let him go to Bayern.
Yeah.
Because he was poor that season too. I think him staying as long as he did, I think that's a big reason we're in this mess that we're in is because of that, the rebuild. Like I guess they just panicked because Gundo left that season, Laporte left, Mahrez left, and I guess Walker, they just didn't want to let them out. But I think that set a precedent of not letting players go who probably, you got to move them on. You always want to move them on too early instead of too late. And with Walker, we just held on too long. And Then the fans got on him. I mean, the fans were awful. There were some terrible things on Twitter being said about him, and I don't condone that whatsoever. But
No.
I wish Walker had left last summer. I wish we'd let him go when he wanted to go, and then I wish he had kind of made the decision to leave last summer, but that just didn't happen. And when he played, I think he made us worse. So it was just unfortunate because he's just been such a great player for our club and for the Premier League for 10 years. One of the best, if not the best right back of all time in the Premier League. And sadly, all we're going to remember is, the last 2 seasons, which weren't good.
Yeah, and it is a shame. It is a shame. I know we've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but I suppose it is relevant. But he's one of those players that we should have got.
I do.
He should have gone. He's gone now anyway. But I think with all the, stuff outside as well, everything happening outside of the club, everything that he was doing in his personal life, it just got to a point for me. I was like, I'm getting sick of hearing about it. It's obviously affecting things between him and Pep. I believe. I think it was an issue. So yeah. I am glad he left. I was upset about how he went about it and how he left. Halfway through the season, I just thought it was insane.
Yeah, especially a trying season like this. And he's the captain, and he's abandoning ship. That's not a good look.
No. But listen. Big up to Eddie. I think it's Saudi money though, isn't it? It's Saudi money. So, I'd love 30 million. But I think you're right. I think you're probably looking at 2025. But if I'm Man City, and it's that big Saudi money, they can pay it. They've got Saudi Arabia. They've got whatever it's FIFA money, isn't it, to them? It doesn't.
They've got
doesn't even exist.
Big collection of cash.
So that's the issue with City, though, isn't it, guys? We always undersell players. We always have done. It irritates the life out of me. We did it. We've done it many times in the past. I remember when we sold Tevez. Same with Edin Dzeko. We sold Edin Dzeko, and then Edin Dzeko went on to, I think he was second or third in the running for the Europe Golden Boot. Crazy, but hey, 25 million I'll be happy with, but I'd like 30 million. That'd be great.
Yeah, because didn't we only pay 25 or 30 million for him almost 10 years ago? So if we came close to breaking even after all that time, that would be insanely good business.
Oh yeah, it would be good business. I think, how much is the replacement going to cost? That's the issue that you've got, isn't it? Like Bowie said earlier, don't really think we need to splash 50 mil on a keeper, but I mean, it's the going rate nowadays, isn't it? It sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but you're probably looking at about 50 mil, depending on who you get. If you're going to get Portugal's, is it Costa? That's the guy that
Diego Costa. Yeah,
he's Portugal's #1 keeper. He's the best in his league. He's not going to be a cheap signing. So do you try it with Ortega? Do you risk having Ortega or?
I don't think that. I think they'll get somebody in.
Yeah. I think they're going to get somebody. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think even if they get somebody in, I don't think it necessarily spells the end for Ortega. I think, he was happy to be second to Ederson. He signed the contract. He signed his contract extension knowing he was going to be second place. So you never know. I mean, if this new keeper comes in and maybe it doesn't work, Ortega comes in, builds up form, is really good. You never know. It could happen. But yeah, I think that's the only chance for Ortega to get that #1 spot.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He might start out the season as the #1, and then maybe we'll get somebody at the end of the window. But based on just the reporting for Costa, it seems like he might be in when our window opens, because we get that early window. So he potentially could be through the door for Club World Cup, and then we could actually play him and get him used to playing pep ball, because we're not. That's our preseason. We're not doing a preseason, so. The sooner we can get these players in that little 10-day window, that'll help us tremendously for next season. Get them a few games under their belt and see that, let them know what the demands are under Pep and in a Pep team, and that'll just take time. And so the more you have of it, try to use it to your advantage.
They're gonna have to, whoever it is, we're gonna have to get them in early. We're gonna have to get them in early and bed them in. It's a good thing. I think Ortega will play I can see Ortega playing a lot of that Club World Cup, but we definitely need the new guy in to be getting minutes, picking up minutes, training with the team. That's the biggest thing. Just having minutes, training. Maybe not necessarily playing every game, but just training with the team, so that when that first game of the season comes out, you don't have a Bravo situation.
Oh God, nightmares.
Oh, I remember that.
It was such a disaster.
Was it the Community Shield? Was it the Community Shield against United, or it was against United, and he had an absolute shitter of a game, and Ibrahimovic scored. I think it was a volley or something crazy, wasn't it? I remember that. I felt so bad for him, but yeah, that was a bad signing.
Yeah, and then he had an injury. He tore his Achilles, so he had a missed season. And then I think after his third season, he came back and he was our cup keeper, and he actually had a pretty good cup run. So he kind of redeemed himself, and then I don't know. Then he disappeared.
Yeah, he did really well. I think after that it was the Euros or the World Cup, and he was genuinely the best keeper in that tournament. He was Costa Rican, wasn't he? I'm sure he's Costa Rican. He was incredible.
He was Chilean.
He might be Chilean. He was definitely Chilean.
Yeah.
He was definitely Chilean. But yeah, he was fantastic. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the obviously the semi-final against Forest. I think a lot of people, including myself, again fell into that trap with the lineup. I thought it was going to be a much tougher game. It was a tough game. I thought it was going to be a much tougher game. But what were your thoughts when you saw the lineup?
Well, for once, I didn't overreact as badly as I have. I was actually surprised that I thought he was going to go full uncle and play all four of them again, but he only played Kava and Bernardo. And it was very interesting to see some of the rotation he made, like Jack starting. I never would have guessed that.
No. And
Rico Lewis starting in the midfield. I never would have predicted that. So I was pleasantly surprised. Decided to just not freak out.
Yeah.
Even though internally I kind of was. I was like, uh-oh. The Jack and the Rico thing kind of screamed out 2021 Champions League final Sterling starting when he was out of form. So that just confused me. But it worked really well in that first half, man. We were absolutely suffocating them. And Kovacic, I think that's the best he's ever looked in a City shirt. He looked amazing. He had such a good game.
Brilliant. I've said it all.
I was so impressed with them
on multiple streams, on my stream. Kovacic is a good player. He's a tidy player. For me, you just can't play him with Gundo. You just can't play him with Gundo.
No.
It doesn't.
Even Bernardo worked very well, I thought. Bernardo put in a great shift. Yeah, Bernardo looks a lot better when he's further back.
Yeah, Bernardo was really good.
The creativity's gone from him, but he can still put in a work shift defensively.
Yeah, and I think it was a bit. It felt like a redemption game for a few different players. I think Kovacic silenced a lot of people. I think I was so happy for Rico as well. I am a Rico fan. I do see a future for Rico. I just never saw him as a right back, and I was struggling to kind of see where he'd fit. But further up the field in that in the middle of the park, he's shown it straight away. And in a big game, that was a big pressure moment. And to score a goal, what was it, 2 minutes into the game, incredible. And that celebration as well.
Yeah,
might be my favorite celebration all season.
That was one of the most cleanest knee slides I've ever seen. Gundogan watching on the bench is like, man, I got to learn that.
Yeah, it was just a stare down into the camera. It was that stare down.
Oh yeah,
this is what I can do. This is what I'm about. I knew you could feel that he was absolutely buzzing. So fair play to the lad. I thought he had a good game actually. And
yeah, he's gotten a lot of crap this season too. So I bet that felt good just to shut everybody up. And I there was a lot of chatter going on, like, what's this guy do? Why is he starting the game? He's terrible in the midfield, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was a little nervous because that was the same midfield. I guess we haven't seen that midfield in quite a while, but we did see it at St. James Park, and I guess they all held their own. And that was a really bad game too, because that was like right after Rodri got injured. And so I think it was just this like air of unknown. And the three of them, they didn't do a terrible job against Newcastle's like far superior, tall midfield that's just oozing with physicality in all departments. And So yeah, that was the last time I remember seeing the three of them together. But yeah, Rico, I think he can have a place. He was really good yesterday as a box to box, and we've kind of been missing that in that midfield for a lot of the season. So I think there is a future for him. You kind of have to hide him against a couple of better players, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't do him a right back anymore. I never thought I'd say this, but I'd rather see Nunes there than Rico.
I know. What a crazy season. What an insane season that you're hearing that. I'd rather have Nunes at right back. But again, credit where credit's due. You know, the way that he's been playing these last few, this last month or so, no qualms with that. I think he's been fantastic. And that, that massive goal against Villa, my God.
Yeah.
Even if he never plays for City again, I think he can. He's got a moment with the club now, which is something. I think a lot of people are always going to remember Nunes for that, and not necessarily some of the shit that he did in the early part of the season.
Oh yeah, I'm still struggling to forgive him for that United game, but he's on the redemption path.
He's on the redemption.
I'll never forget his penalty in the Community Shield. Like that was just a laser. I was like, "Whoa, that's a penalty."
Yeah.
So he'll have two moments for me.
I think with that game as well. It surprised me. I think we caught Forest just off the back foot straight away. Their game plan must have been out the window pretty much from the offset. There's no football team in the world really. Well, there's no football team in Europe really that plans to go down within the first 2 minutes of a game.
Yeah.
Unless you're Manchester United. But yeah, their game plan must have just been thrown right out of the window, and it just changed the game for us. It won us the game. That Rico goal won us the game. I know obviously we ended up getting another one, but that Rico goal was massive because Forest just never got out of out of second gear really until the second half came around.
Yeah, I was surprised Alenga didn't start because he was absolutely cooking. Nico did a really good job though trying to keep up with him, but that's where you kind of tell that he's not quite a defender. Coming up against like a very pacey, like skillful winger. But I think he held his own as best he could, all things considered. And I really like that Pep is sticking with his back four. We've had so many consistency issues this season because he can't keep any defenders healthy, and so the back line is constantly changing. But we finally have allowed Joško and Ruben to form a partnership. And that for me, I think is one of the better developments of this season is the fact that we finally got Joško playing his position. And it's like, oh yeah, he's really damn good as a center back. And he looks a lot more confident. And then Ruben, I think he's thriving off of having that partnership. And then Ruben also doesn't have to start the buildup anymore. Like Joško can start doing that. And I think that'll help him because that's not really Ruben's strength.
I completely agree.
He's much better if he's just focusing on the defensive end, and so taking that pressure off him should improve his form. And he had a comeback game. A lot of people have been slagging him off because, to be fair, he's had a very inconsistent season, a lot of injuries, and I thought he was really poor in the Villa game. But he bounced back. I thought he had a really good game yesterday. So happy to see it.
Yeah, I said it. I put it on Twitter. I added Mateus because I think we were on. It might have been Patrick's channel. I said to Mateus, I said, "There's no way that he's going to stay left back." He said, "No, we signed. We moved in there. We signed him as a left back. No." I said, "No, there's no way that player stays at a left back. He's too good. The potential's too much for him to be moved there. Putting Fabian Delph at left back, fine." And actually he was fantastic as a left back, but this is a different type of player. This is one of the best young defenders in world football, one of the best centre backs in the world currently. You know what? If not, maybe the best defender in the world on form for what he gives you, that attacking output, the goals he scores. He's scoring on a regular basis now, and I don't know how many he scored this season.
But it was his sixth goal. They said 6 overall
for a defender. I mean, how many did Jamie Carragher score in his entire career? How many Gary Neville score in his entire career? These guys are different. They're a different level.
Yeah, he'd kind of been on a little bit of a drought too, because I feel like the last time he scored, it must have been back in 2024. Like I feel like he kind of hadn't been scoring because that is one thing is when he stays back, he doesn't score as much, but. Another underrated aspect of that goal is you got to give Omar Marmoush credit. That cross was insane from the corner. I don't know why he's not on corners full time. I don't know why we're having Gundo and Kev do it. Kev are not good anymore. No. And then as soon as Gundo came on, he took the next one. I was like, what are you doing? Like, keep Marmoush on it. Like, he had just gotten an assist. Why are you taking him off of the corners? Because he's consistently looked really good at them since he joined the club. And I don't understand why he's not doing them. Like, but the problem is that Pep just cannot let some of these players go. So the new players have to accommodate the old ones, and that's why I'll stop on that tangent. But
Pep is a man of routine. We know this. Unfortunately, he's not going to change everything. But fair play to Pep. He's been getting pelters all for the second half of the season, and I've been doubting his lineups, and we all have. But this month in April, he's got it spot on. We've had a fantastic month. I don't think we could have really, aside from the United result, I think you couldn't really have asked for a better month considering the months that we've had prior. So again, I apologise forever. I'll never doubt Pep, and it's stupid of me to ever doubt Pep. I'll never doubt you again, Pep. Sorry for that.
It just felt like it just took forever. And then now you're starting to see little hints as to why it took so long. Yeah. Because I guess he had to actually teach Nunes and O'Reilly how to be fullbacks in training. And it just took several months to kind of get them ready. Yeah. And so he couldn't really change the formation until they were actually ready to do the job. And it makes sense why Husanov's not playing right now. I mean, I'm sad. I'd like to see him play, but it makes sense why he's not. So I get it. I'm not upset about it. I wouldn't mind seeing him come in for Diaz in a game, though, because I think Diaz could use a little bit of rotation just to keep him a little
I'd like
fresher.
To see that rotation. I think probably what Pep's doing is he's letting that development happen a little bit more naturally. I said it when we signed these players, and I've said it on previous streams. In an ideal world, if these players, they were brought in, and they were rushed in because of the amount of injuries that we had. But I think if we'd had, Stones and Ake fit and other players fit, we probably wouldn't have really seen a lot of these players.
I haven't seen them at all.
So I think what's happening, I think people are getting a little bit worried, but I think, there's no need to be worried. I think they're just all doing what they should be doing. And that includes Echeverri, training with the first team, making those relationships. And hopefully they will get, I think they'll all get a lot more minutes in that Club World Cup. I
think they're going to be playing most of it, because we have been driving the players into the ground. I saw a stat yesterday that Yashko just hit 4,000 minutes. I was like, he's going to be dead next season if I think he needs to not play in most of the Club World Cup games.
This is what I mean.
I'm really worried for the guy, because that's a lot of minutes, and we've already seen what happens if you drive Rodri into the ground and he tears his ACL. If that happens next season to Yashko, or if he tears his hamstring or something, that's just going to be really bad. So I'm hoping I want to see Victor Hayes get that chance. Do Victor Hayes and Diaz has had a lot of injuries, so he's kind of missed a lot of time. So I'd rather play him more minutes in the Club World Cup even though he probably needs the whole summer off. But if he does play in the Club World Cup, play him next to Victor Hayes. So Victor Hayes can kind of play that Yashko role. And I think that's a good substitute, because it kind of seems like Husanov and Victor Hayes are kind of the same profile as Husanov has the same profile as Diaz, and then Victor Hayes has the same profile as Yashko. So you can interchange the four of them. I think I would love it if next season, if that was our 4 center backs for the season, and there's probably plenty of time for all of them, and then use Ake and Stones as backups. Have Ake be a backup left back, and possibly center back, and then have Stones be a backup right back. And in this scenario, I'm getting rid of Akanji, but nobody agrees with me on that. I'm on my own. Wow. I'm on my own island with that thinking point, because I just know that if Akanji's here, he's going to play. He'll start every game, and then the new guys can't develop, and you're delaying the rebuild even more. That's kind of that's why Yashko had to play center back or left back last season, is because Akanji was there, and all these other players were there taking his spot, and it's well, if you want them to learn and develop, they have to go.
I agree.
those players, because it's not a rebuild otherwise. It's just a bunch of unhappy players, a bunch of unhappy youngsters. Then they want to leave and they get frustrated. And at some point, the youngsters will stop signing for us. Yeah. If we don't actually start playing them right away.
Talking
it's
about
not every game, rotate them in and out.
talking about youngsters here, it's a good little segue here. Andrew Bowie. Does O'Reilly become a regular starter for you guys with the form he's in, or do we buy new and push him back on the bench, which will probably make him leave and be another Cole Palmer elsewhere? I think I can't see a scenario in which he doesn't that he for me he's solidified now in that starting 11. He's got to play majority of the games for us going forward. He's been, he's, in my opinion, to be honest with you, he's probably been my favourite thing about this season. I think that'll maybe change if we win the FA Cup, but he's been a bright spark in a pretty tepid and drab season. He's one player. He's one of the players. I think alongside Marmoush, obviously, but because he's a local lad, because he's a young lad, he's come through the academy, he's a City fan. He's that one player where I'm like, I'm excited. I want him to be the first name that I see there because, I mean the double, was it a double Maradona that he pulled off, and then unfortunately he didn't get the shot away. But God, this team is missing that. It's been missing it all season. Just a bit of individual skill, a bit of individual quality. So for me, he does not get pulled out of this team at all. He has to start majority of the games next season.
I would love that. Yeah, if he's happy to do this left back role, I think he's kind of he's thriving in it. Like it really suits his skill set. He's got the pace. He's got the body for it. He's long and leggy and. He's very creative too, so it's helping actually having something come from the wings because I feel like we just haven't had that enough this season, and I'm just happy Pep trusted him enough because that's my biggest frustration earlier this season before January when we didn't have any new players was just the fact that he would not even test the youngsters whatsoever. I never agreed with that. I thought you could have just replaced, you could have just taken one of the older players out.
Yeah.
And put someone new, just one player, like one out of the starting 11. Like I was never calling for an entire academy 11, but I was just like, replace one of these older players who's struggling with somebody new, see what they got, put the youth next to the experience and have them help each other. Like have the older player tell the younger player, where to be, and then he'll be the legs. And then you'll have the knowledge and the legs, even though it's two separate bodies. But I just think that would have helped to turn our season around so much sooner. But
I agree.
Better late than never. At least he did it now. And I think a big reason why this new formation is working is because of Nico. And also I think McAtee's doing pretty well in this formation as well. Because McAtee did not impress early in the season at all. I don't think he took his chance, whereas Nico was in the cup games he was getting. But I think James is thriving in this new setup. He's getting into the box quite a bit. He's not really converting any chances or as many as he should be, but I think he's looking a lot better. And if he played more games, he'd probably get more confidence and would start bagging some of those goals.
I think, coming in, picking out what you said there around the youth, I agree. I think, that's one of the learning curves, I think, for Pep this season. The big one for him has been we need a bigger squad. We've always had a condensed, tight squad, and we have got really lucky. We've got very fortunate in the past that we've not had we have had a lot of injuries in the past, but nothing to this level. And I think when we lost Rodri, the best player in the world, the best CDM in the world, everything else kind of fell apart. So I think that's been a big learning curve for him. Whether he would admit that, I don't know, but I think he recognises that. I hope he does. I think the other thing that I would say is, people think Pep is some sort of footballing robot genius that's just been, built, as soon as he was born, he was thinking about formations and but obviously that's not the case. And he went through, he's going through, I believe, I don't know what's happening. Apparently they're trying to rekindle, but at one stage his relationship fell apart. He's human. And I think you could tell because he was coming out and saying things that were very, very un-Pep-like, started talking about players in a bit more of a negative light, which is something that Pep's not really done too much. Just bizarre things. There was a lot around McAtee that just always confused me because, 1 minute it would be, I feel really bad for not starting him. He should play. And then a game would come up in which you would think, okay, well, he'll play him in this one because, he came off the bench and scored and then he wouldn't play. But I think everyone seems to be a lot happier now and Pep included as well.
Yeah, I think maybe because of those personal struggles you were mentioning, maybe that just caused him to go into this, like, I can only trust what I know, and that's his guys. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, father time comes for everybody. And for some of these players that we've ran into the ground for 7, 8 years, they're like, Bernardo's only 30, but he's had so many miles on his legs that he's playing more like a 33 or 34-year-old and not a 30-year-old. So that's why he kind of gets the uncle moniker. But but
yeah,
yeah, I think I just decided to trust what he knew. And it's rough. And maybe some of it also was that, like, maybe he had
yeah,
the idea in his head for the new formation, but it took him a while just to be able to play that. And getting the new players probably helped quite a bit because it's fresh bodies and a little more experience. So maybe he would trust more experienced players in other leagues
yeah,
versus the academy players. Because I definitely understand the concept of, like, not wanting to rush the youngsters and ruin their confidence. Like, I do
yeah,
get that, but at the same time, when you see the team losing constantly and just playing awful, like, just
yeah.
what
No
we haven't seen
creativity.
in 15 plus years, like,
Yeah,
you're just desperate for something. And then, but that was also the time that the window was closed, so
yeah.
our only option was the academy. So you're like, come on, do it. But
We have,
I'm sure it'll happen for a reason.
we have probably the best academy in the world. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased there. You've got
Probably La
Barcelona, La
Masia is up
Masia,
there.
maybe.
It's La Masia and the CFA, definitely, I
Yeah,
would
I think
say. But
they're the top two. But it's the best in the Premier League anyway. By a country mile. So I don't think we're wrong for thinking that we can trust some of these players. And McAtee, people going to get sick of me talking about McAtee, but he should have had more. He should have had more opportunities this season.
he did. Oh,
Whether he
yeah.
stays or goes, but that won't change my mind. If he goes next season, I still think he should have had more opportunities this season because I know what's going to happen there. I think he will end up moving on, unfortunately.
I think so too.
You know, it's a strange one, and for him, I think it must be so confusing for him because you've got the manager coming out saying that he wants him to stay next season and that he wants to play him more, but then he doesn't play him. So if I was him and I was sat on the bench, and especially some of these performances that he must have been watching, it just must be boggling to him as to why he's not getting more minutes, why he's not starting games. I'd rather, sometimes you'd rather Pep come out and just be honest and say, look, he probably should move on because he deserves to get first team minutes, rather than this false, I think it is false hope of, no, we want to keep him, he's going to start more games, but then you don't start him. And then we're all just a little bit like, it doesn't make sense to anyone. Rajat97.
Yeah, it's just that fear from him, I guess, because I think he did get scared and he just didn't know how to trust new players. And I think he's even been slow to integrate the newer ones that he got in January. Like, I honestly think if Holland was healthy, that Marmoush might not be getting all these opportunities he is. Like, he played Husinov out of desperation.
Yeah.
But the Nico Gonzalez dropping is that's baffling to me. I really don't understand why he's not getting a little bit more time. But I think he helped turn our season around. I think his presence in the midfield has led the turnaround.
The only player that I understand getting dropped, and the one that I've been asking for a while, was Foden, because he just needs. I mean, to be honest with you, as crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't be unhappy if we didn't see him again to the Club World Cup. I just think he needs time away.
Oh, I totally agree. I wouldn't be upset if he didn't play until next season.
Yeah.
I think there's clearly something going on with his health that and as a human being, I just empathize with anybody who's having like a struggle with their health and their body. And it's just magnified as a professional athlete. Like, you really have to be in that top form. And whatever this problem is that he's having, I would rather him be with the doctors, like fixing it, or just on vacation, clearing his head and trying to get his body into prime shape again. Because,
this is it. We don't know what's going on.
Everybody reacts to diseases differently. Yeah, so exactly. If it is a disease, I don't know what it is, but
we don't know. I mean,
I would just rather him focus on that than football right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Rajat97, I miss seeing Kushinov play.
Yeah, I do too.
Same. I think again that was another spark, wasn't it? In a shit season, to be honest with you. Seeing him come in, he honestly reminded me so much of Zabaleta And Zabaleta is one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
all-time favorite City players.
Good
Just
show.
the intensity that he brings. I think, again, we kind of spoke about it. I think we'll see him a lot more in the Club World Cup, and he'll definitely get more game time next season. I think he's just been pulled back a little bit to say, hey, take the pressure off. People forget he's still a very young lad. You know, he can't speak the language. You know, it's a big culture change. So I think they're doing what they probably wanted to do with him, and it's just, look, no pressure. You know, we're going to give you minutes here and there, but you know, next season is going to be a season where you're going to be a lot more involved. We just want to bed you in the right way, which is what they did with Vitor Reyes. And it's right, because out of all the players that we brought in, he was the one that I looked at, and you know, just off the size of him, because he's very lightweight, I'll put it that way. You know, and it's a very, very physical league. I think we were right to keep him back consistently and just bed him in, you know, coming from, you know, being a Brazilian lad as well. So we'll definitely see more of these players going forward.
Yeah, in the Club World Cup, I would hope that they play most of the minutes.
I think
you
so.
know, do some experimenting, see if Hayes can do, because he's supposed to be kind of like that Stones profile, like he can invert into midfield and play DM. So I'd like to see some of that in some of the games, like him and Diaz. If Diaz plays, you know, pair that profile together and let's see what he can do, because some of these games look very winnable.
Yeah.
Some of these clubs, I mean, granted, we won't know until we actually see it. I'm actually not going to any games because I can't afford it right now.
Oh,
I don't have any time off, so I can't afford to miss work.
It's a little bit more expensive for you than me.
If it's ridiculously expensive. If they come, the thing is just the plane ticket for me, because I live in a smaller city, so it's very hard to find like nonstop flights to the cities that the city you're playing in.
Yeah.
So that take, you know, the layovers take time, and it's like a whole extra day of travel. So if they'd come out west, that's an easy trip for me. So maybe if they make the knockout rounds and play something on the West Coast, then I could like last minute maybe do like a day trip or something, because there are a lot of nonstops to the West Coast.
I think it would be fantastic. I've been thinking about this for a few weeks actually, but I think it would be, you know, amazing, you know, next season if we all met up. You know, for a big game, you know, maybe an FA Cup final. Well, I'm not sure if we get there, but you know, a big game. We get Patrick over from Ireland. We'll get Luke over. You know, maybe Rajak can get over. I don't know, but that would be a legendary. That would be an awesome link up and a really good day out. I think if we could make it happen, we should make that happen.
I'd love to. Yeah. I'm trying to come next season.
Yeah.
Like I said, my problem is just in 2025, I have allocated all of my vacation days already. I've taken like 3 trips already, and I've used the bulk of it. And I have another trip in November. So I have very few days to play with, but I'm going to look for maybe like the end of the year, like around New Year's. Once the fixtures come out, I know it's like the worst time to come because it's like winter and cold and dark. But I was like, whatever, that's how you watch footy. so yeah, something around New Year's would be fun, because then I could use up like the 2 or 3 days that I have left for 25. And then when 26 hits, I'm like, hey, a whole set of days. I could stay a little bit longer.
Brill. Luke from the Not in My Lifetime pod, even though it was in front of me, then my mind went blank. Hey guys, hope we're all doing good. Been a good birthday in London, a few beers and a lot of food. I'll make sure to check out the stream tomorrow when I catch up on everything, get those likes up. Happy birthday, mate.
Happy birthday, Luke.
Good,
the big 25.
Nice way to celebrate, wasn't it? Hey, nice win.
He's going to be an uncle soon.
Yeah, he's going to be an uncle.
Get up there towards the uncle age.
I'm 30 in a week. I think it's a week today. Maybe.
The dirty 30. That's always fun.
So I will be certified unk. I'll be certified unk status. I'll be up there with Gundo and Bernardo and the rest of the boys putting the shift in. But no, I hope you had a good time, mate, and we'll get you on the pod. I didn't ask because obviously it was your birthday. I assume you were doing something probably a lot funner. But we'll get you on soon, mate. Happy birthday.
Yeah, live it up in London, man. Fun town.
Expensive town. So expensive, London.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it. It's good. It's good. It's funny because a lot of people from the
23.
A lot of people from the States always seem to think that we all go to London all the time, and honestly, I I probably go to London. In fact, I've not been to London for the sake of going to London and doing all the tourism stuff. In fact, I've never done it, and I'm from the country. I've never actually gone to London to do, Big Ben and the House of Parliament and all that kind of stuff. I need to, because there's no excuse for me.
I like all the art museums because they're all free. There's no admission fee, but we have the same thing in our capital. There's a lot of free art museums in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. I don't go to big cities unless I need to. Like, I'm from San Francisco originally, so if I go there, it's usually for business purposes. But going to LA, LA's beautiful, but it's a complete nightmare logistically. You have to drive a car. There's a ridiculous amount of traffic, and it gets really hot and disgusting there in the summertime. So I'm just like, I haven't been to LA in like 10 years, and I'm like, I don't see the need to.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I know what you mean. I go to London for Wembley. That's about it. Andrew Bowie.
I need a reason, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going with the same team for the cup final or changing anything? That's a good question.
I think that's going to be, I think he's going to play all the uncles. I think, because that is going to be one of De Bruyne's last games ever on the team.
Will start that game 100%.
He'll start for sure.
He has to start. Yeah.
I think he'll just go. I think he's going to go with it because it's working. If it's not broken, don't fix it type of thing. So let's just keep rolling with it. We're playing with house money here. Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
That lineup overwhelmed Crystal Palace already. So, I hope they don't do it, but we'll see.
There's going to be.
That was the first time we saw it was that Crystal Palace game. We're all just like, what is this? And then I know it didn't start out too good, but now they've had a little more confidence because they've all been building chemistry by playing in it a few times in a row. So maybe we'll start out a little more solid defensively and not give up those early chances. That's gonna be an interesting final because I feel like Palace, they could be really pumped and excited because this would literally be their first trophy ever as a club. And
the Palace will be well up for that game. We've always struggled against Palace. It's always a difficult game against Palace. It's one of the teams that I absolutely hate playing. Them, Spurs. I don't really like playing Everton either. It's that type of club where, it's rare that you go and it's an easy game, a 3-4-0 game. It's always a slog. And I've been stung a lot in the past, especially with Palace. It's not going to be, I think it'll be a harder game than the Forest one for those reasons.
Interesting to put Rico in that lineup maybe because Rico hates Crystal Palace. I think yesterday against Forest was the first goal he's ever scored against that wasn't against Crystal Palace against Premier League teams or whatever. He had I guess all of his Premier League goals or most of them are all Crystal Palace, so he just hates them. And I'm just maybe throw him in, see what happens.
It'll be interesting because the thing is with Pep, it's been a really odd and weird season for this because generally speaking in the past, we will play the informed players. That's not been the case this season. I know we're talking about McAtee, but it's the same with Doku. He'll come on, change the game, and I think his form has been fantastic over this last few months. But then he won't start him. He won't start McAtee. He doesn't start Rico. Doesn't start Nico even. Not O'Reilly, but
Nico Gonzalez.
Nico Gonzalez doesn't get started either. So it's a weird season. There's no guarantee that Rico will even start the next game. He could. We might not see him again. Honestly, you just might not see him again for the next 3 games, and then he might throw him in for the final. You can't predict a City lineup this season.
It's hard, yeah. The Nico one's been interesting because he has actually been in and out of this new formation because he played at Everton, and I don't remember if he played in the Crystal Palace game, but I don't think he did because I think that's why he freaked out so badly. But he kind of has been in and out of it, and I guess some of the comments were that he just doesn't know the positioning well enough yet. And Kava has that extra year of experience on him. So that's probably why he's going with Kava. And to be fair, if Kava's going to play with this kind of form, then I'm not going to have a problem with it. He's looked fantastic lately.
Yeah.
It's so much better than earlier in the season when he was just getting destroyed in that position, but he's improved quite a bit. So I'd rather see Nico get some minutes, but hey man, you gotta kick someone out of that lineup, and he hasn't done it, so it's your job, Kova. Take it.
I'm happy to stick with cover. I think just don't play Magundo doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the key. But Gunda was on the bench yesterday, so that was maybe the sign. He went with the slightly younger legs of Bernardo. I thought Bernardo and Kava, they complemented each other really well. So I'm okay with that pairing. Bernardo's picked his form up quite a bit too, because one of the reasons we were all so upset with him this year is he just wasn't playing well, and he just kept playing, and he never got punished for the poor form. But he's made me eat my words. Like he's turned his form around. He's performing a lot better. And now I'm not as upset when I see his name in the lineup, because I know he's going to put in a better shift than he was most of the season.
I don't care if we play the same team and we win every game 1-0.
Yeah, same.
Just top 4, and that's the main thing. It's still the main thing. I think we will now. I actually think we can push on maybe a little bit higher. That third second spot maybe. I'd love that. I'd give anything. To pip Arsenal to second place, because that would be. I mean, if they drop down to third and didn't win the Champions League, that would be a disaster. I think that would be a disaster. I think you could make a case there to say that out of all the big 6 teams, they may have had the worst season there, because again, if it wasn't City that was winning it, it was supposed to be. This was supposed to be Arsenal's year, and they've just fell apart really in the Premier League.
Yeah, the excuses are just never ending for them either. Like they're saying, oh, injury. Oh, because Saka got injured. I was like, you never dropped in the table, because Saka was out in like December and they were in second place. And then Saka comes back like 4 months later and they're still in second place. So I don't think you can blame the Saka injury. Like I really don't.
I hate hearing about. I mean, Saka's a great player, right? He is. I'm not delusional. He's a great player, but he's not the player. He's not the player that everybody, the Arsenal fans and some of the English media seem to think he is. The way that Arsenal fans talk about him, and how Sky and TNT talk about him, you would think he was, Lionel Messi at Barcelona, and he's not. He never has been. He doesn't get big numbers against the top 6 teams. We've played Arsenal many, many times, and there are games where I've looked at it and think he's basically done nothing in this game. He's just been, he's just coasted through these games. So, he's Phil Foden's not been great this season, but if you look at the seasons where he has been, he's scored season-defining goals in the Champions League and, in the Premier League as well. And Saka, never really, has been that player consistently.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a top player, but yeah, you're right. He's never really had those big clutch moments. And like the only thing I can remember him scoring against us in that treble season was that penalty. Yeah. Which was kind of a questionable pen, but whatever. At least we won that game. I don't remember him doing a lot of damage against us. Yeah. But maybe I'm just misremembering. But yeah, Foden, you're right. He has stepped up massively. Like last season, he just carried. He and Rodri, it was a 2-man carry job. Insane. And Foden had some big goals that season. He scored at United. He scored at the Bernabeu to equalize that game that we've been trailing most of it. Yeah. He basically won us the league 2 minutes into that West Ham game. Yeah. Like he and Rodri literally just scored all the goals, and he put that game to bed so early. He had that big equalizer against United. Like he just had at the Etihad, like he just had big moments all season. And in his career also, like people are slagging him off because of this season, and they forget last season, but they also forget that season at like 2021 where when we went to the Champions League final, like he was cooking that season. He was so good. Like he was he wasn't carrying us, but he was a big part of that season, and he started that final as like a 19-year-old or something.
We'll see the best version of Foden next season. He'll be great again.
Once he just has to get his health back. Like that for me is just the most important thing. Like I don't care about the football right now. I just want him to be like healthy and pain-free. Like if he has to force his body into like massive amounts of pain to play football, then for me that's just not worth it. Like I'm not just disregarding him as a football player, but like I just as a human being, I just really want him to be healthy and fit and happy. Like
Yeah, that's the
Your
main
job
thing.
shouldn't make you miserable, and it shouldn't make you be in pain.
Yeah,
I just want him to fix whatever wrong with him, or try to adjust his life to it. Like whatever this thing is, whatever it is, if it's chronic or not, find the medicine that helps. Experiment with it, or change your diet. And those changes can take months at a time.
yeah,
That's why I'm not rushing him back. But
yeah.
the
I
club
completely agree.
really is.
It'll be fine. We'll wind it down shortly. Andrew Bowie here. Very expensive. Haven't even checked my bank account from yesterday. A lot of beers were consumed. I know that obviously you went to that game at the FA Cup. Wembley's expensive, man. We've been, I think, what was it, 20 times over the last however many years or something crazy like that. Maybe even more.
Yeah.
I know that there was a lot of empty seats at the game at Wembley. But that's what is going to happen if you're going to charge the amount that we charge for tickets. Our own home games, never mind going out to London. It's too expensive to be going to the Etihad at the minute for a lot of people. So when you throw a Wembley tie in there, it's difficult. Sunday, it's a hard day. It's a hard day for a lot of people. Booking work off. It's a long commute back if you go in the same day. I've done it constantly. Every time I've been to Wembley, I drive there and I drive back. It's a slog, a lot of petrol and all that jazz. So, mate, I'm not envious of you, but I'll be there on I think when is it scheduled for? The
17th.
17th. Yeah, I think it's scheduled for the 17th. So that weekend I'll be skint. I'll have no money. So I'm with you.
Also, a big L for all these fans who are ripping City fans, saying they're plastic for not going yesterday. It's like you're getting mad at fans because they can't afford to go to a game. Like, that to me is just extremely rude. And check your entitlement at the door, buddy. Because if you're slagging off people who can't afford to go to Wembley multiple times in a season, they have to pick and choose. Yep. This is also after a midweek game where they were charging 71 quid for a game. Yep. Like, that's people have a set amount of money that they can spend on their football team, and that doesn't make them a plastic fan because they can't afford to go to a game. And I got into a beef on somebody on Twitter. He's like, plastic fans, and I was like, "Oh, is it free to go to London?" I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was free. I didn't realize train tickets were free and the game tickets are free. He's like, "They're only 30 quid." I was like, "I doubt they're 30 quid. No, maybe." Yeah, they were. I'm sure they were more expensive, and then food and all that stuff, and if you had to take the train, that seems like those are 150 quid or something like that. Yeah. And I don't know how the whole bus system works with the club, but the thing is, I imagine you still have to pay something for it. And then it's also just hours on the bus too. Like, time is money.
Forest fans were, giving us grief, and it's all well and good for them because, and again, I'm not saying this to try and, shit on their club, but it's true. Just speaking facts. They don't know the next time that they're going to be at Wembley. They may not go to Wembley for another 10 years. It's probably unlikely because they seem to have picked up form. They've got a good manager, but it's not a guarantee for City. We may not be there for another 2-3 years or however long it may be. No one's guaranteed. But for a club like Forest or even a club like Villa in recent years, there's no guarantees that you're going to be back. So of course you're all going to turn up and you're going to sell out because you don't know when you're next going to see it. For a lot of these City fans, we've had seasons where we'll go to Wembley 4 times in a season, 5 times in a season. You can't expect those same fans because every club has a set of fans that are travelling fans, okay? You can't expect that fan base to keep going to Wembley 5 or 6 times a year. It's too expensive, on top of season tickets and on top of, everything else being expensive in life,
and
outside
food
of
and beer. Yeah, everything's going up in price, but our wages never go up. So you just get very thin. And I know there's a cost of living crisis in England, and I've heard the heating bills are very expensive. So I would never give anybody grief for not going to a game.
Yeah,
it's just I can't believe how entitled some of these people are, like these rivals. Yeah, that blows my mind. Like, honestly, it does. It's like, if you can't afford it, that doesn't make you like a bad fan. No, because you're still gonna watch it on TV. It's not like you're just abandoning the team.
You should never have to. Football. Football's for everyone. You don't have to. Justify your support for a club. If you follow the club, whether it's you sit and watch the club, you get involved on Twitter, you go to the games. You know, it doesn't make you more or less of a fan. You know, if we could all go to the games, I'm sure we would. But for some people, it's not. You know, it's not that simple. We'll wrap it up there. A big shout out and a massive thank you for Kels for coming on. You know, again,
anytime.
Always great having you on. We will be back at some point. I'm going to do another episode. I'll do a match preview for the next game. Which is who we playing next?
This is a Wolves game on Friday.
Yes, that's it. Wolves on Friday. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've got a yeah. We've got a great. The next 2 fixtures are fantastic. We've got Wolves at home, and then you know this is probably the best away game you're going to get in the Prem. But we've got Southampton away. You know, who've got nothing to play for. I think so. Knowing us, we'll probably lose against them and beat. You know. We should be all right.
We've had some bad losses there too, like that Carabao Cup game during the treble season. That was a disaster. So that ground has given us some problems in the past. I feel like even before then, there's been some other examples. So that one I'm a little more nervous of. But Wolves at home, we should be taking care of business, and we should be able to rotate a tiny bit too.
Yeah. No, I think we'll be fine. I think the next 2 games we'll be absolutely fine, and hopefully we'll have that top 4. You know, pretty much.
Yeah.
Up. But I will be streaming again.
Part of me was like, oh, is Pep going to just go once we get top 5, he'll just shut shop up? But I think he's going to try to get as high a place as possible.
Yeah, I do.
So that we get into a better pot. Because if we finish third versus 5th is a much different set of teams that you play against in the Champions League draw pot. So I think he's going to try to go for it as much as he can.
The momentum.
His mentality will be to just keep winning and try to get 2nd place because that would give us the best draw possible.
Yeah. I think for momentum as well, just going into that next season, if we can finish on a high, FA Cup win, top 4, 3rd, maybe 2nd, unrealistic probably, but 3rd, 2nd locked up. I think we can go into the next season with a lot more excitement, which I think we will. I've got real hope that we're gonna get everything that we want, till the end of the season now, I think, but we'll see. I'm going to stream again it'll probably be Thursday for the Friday game, and then we'll do a reaction from there. But Kels, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate you guys. Follow Kels on X. Her handle is obviously Kelkster04. Very active on X, and he's pretty on the money with a lot of the opinions aside from the Akanji one.
Not for the faint of heart. I do not have a very ladylike mouth. I'll just put it that way.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong.
I swear like a sailor.
That's fine. But yeah, please do like and subscribe, guys. Get it shared. It really, really does help. And thank you all for getting involved. It's been fantastic. I love it when you guys get involved. This is a City fan page channel. It's for the fans. It's the reason that I do it. Obviously I don't make anything out of this. I'd love to. That would be great. I would quit my job. But, I do this because I enjoy doing it, and I like getting you guys involved. So, yeah, do keep getting involved, guys. And I will, I'll see you on the next one.